This is Public Policy, and I'm your professor, Dr. Patrick Stewart. The organization of this class is set up to consider first, the historical roots of social construction and policy design, second, the core aspects of the theoretical framework, and in the last section, we will consider an application of this framework. We begin with an overview of the social construction and policy design, also known as the social construction of target population in its original formulation. This framework was built by Ann Schneider and Helen Ingram in their classic 1993 American Political Science Review article. At the basis of this framework is the idea that social constructions are powerful images or stereotypes that are formed about various individuals and the groups that they belong to in society. These social constructions allow for easy identification of target populations, and because politics is ultimately about who gets what, when, where, and how, it considers the allocation of rewards and sanctions among the different groups based upon their social constructions. Social constructions impact not only the material welfare of large populations, but also their social reputations, political attitudes, and their participation patterns. We also have a greater awareness of how policy design shapes institutions and the broader culture, and at the same time, reproduces the prevailing institutional culture, power relationships, and social constructions for good or bad. However, there are times when deviation from the same pattern occurs and change may be introduced. At its core, the social construction of target populations framework examines the question of who benefits and who loses from policies, specifically the public policies that we, the people, have influence over. We begin with an overview of the framework. Because social constructions are powerful images or stereotypes that are formed about various individuals in society, understanding the dimensions that affect social constructions is the first step, especially as these social constructions facilitate the identification of target populations and the allocation of rewards and sanctions amongst them. These social constructions can be seen in the images, whether positive or negative stereotypes, that are held about groups by society at large that deem the group as either worthy by contributing to the general welfare or as undeserving and a burden on society, and then considers the power of a group to control its own destiny. Social constructions impact not only the material welfare of target populations, but also their social reputations, political attitudes, and participation patterns. We also know that policy design shapes institutions and the broader culture and usually reproduces the prevailing institutional culture, power relationships, and social constructions. However, there are times when they deviate from the pattern and introduce change. At its core, social constructions of target populations examines the question of who benefits and who loses from policy change. When we consider the intellectual roots of Schneider and Ingram's groundbreaking framework, we see the influence of multiple authors who we have read already or have read about in the classics of public policy. First, we see that understanding the political world is largely socially constructed. Here, Proposition 3 derives from Murray Edelman's 1964 book, The Symbolic Uses of Politics. In this book, Edelman argues that there is a pragmatic world of survival in which individuals have tangible, mostly objective interactions, and the symbolic world of politics that is based upon shared understandings. This forms the very roots of Schneider and Ingram's assertions, especially the latter argument, as politics tends to be carried out in the more abstract world and as a result uses symbolic terms and interactions. Second, we most explicitly see the influence of Theodore Lowy's 1972 article, The Four Systems of Policy, Politics, and Choice, in Schneider and Ingram's 2x2 matrix. Understanding the importance of the assertion, policy creates politics, which is the first social construction of target populations proposition in regards to allocation of resources, is key to understanding how important this framework is in changing our understanding of policy and the politics that results. Finally, understanding that what problems are addressed depends on how they are framed finds its basis in two classic pieces. First, more esoterically, it reflects Charles Lindblom's 1959 article, The Science of Muddling Through, that appeared in the premier journal Public Administration Review as a theoretical piece. Second, John Kingdon's book, Agendas, Alternatives, and Public Policies, considered framing and agenda setting more explicitly by delving into the policymaking process. These influences can be seen in Proposition 2, Feed Forward, Proposition 4, Changing Social Constructions, and Proposition 5, Policy Change. While there are certainly a multitude of other influences that have occurred along the way, and many that have altered how the social construction of target populations is approached in the years since the 1993 Schneider and Ingram article was published, these works can be seen as direct antecedents for an extremely influential work that has shown up in at least 3,000 academic articles, books, and chapters.